Well, thank you very much. We have the tourism industry executives, the biggest anywhere in the world. These are the great ones, and they're going to say a couple of little words pretty soon. I think we'll talk about their company quickly and the number of employees and what's happened since the Chinese virus came about, and they'll be discussing that. So we're joined this afternoon by the true leaders of our nation's travel, hospitality, and tourism industries, and I want to thank you all for being here. I've known many of you for a long time, great people. I want to thank Vice President Pence for his tremendous leadership on the task force. He's done a great job, and thanks also to Secretary Minuchin over at the Hill. They've been working, and Wilbur Ross, and everybody, basically. They're all working. We're all working very hard. We're profoundly grateful to all of the companies and organizations here today representing tens of thousands of American workers and really representing something so important. It's a place to stay when they come to our country. Such a big business, one of the biggest businesses. And thank you for adopting additional protocols to keep Americans healthy, including enhanced cleaning processes throughout your hotels and buildings. We know that your industry is among the hardest hit by the economic impact of the virus. Our goal is to beat the virus, and we will. We call it the hidden virus, the hidden enemy, with aggressive action now so that we can rebound stronger than ever before. That's what we're doing. And everyone's cooperating. We're really getting tremendous spirit. Republicans are getting along with Democrats, and a lot of good things are happening. Yesterday, we issued new guidelines for how all Americans can minimize their risk of exposure and stop the transmission of the virus. My administration has taken decisive action to support American workers and businesses. We love our workers. We love those workers. They're incredible. And we're going to come out stronger than ever before, and it's not going to be so long. The IRS will defer tax payments for affected individuals and businesses. Today, the Senate is taking up legislation to provide for free testing, and that'll happen. Paid sick and family medical leave and nutritional assistance for the vulnerable. We're announcing, and we will be announcing again later on, that we're working with Congress to provide rapid relief for affected workers and industries, and this will allow us to emerge from the strongest economy on earth, because we had literally the strongest economy on earth, and now this is in, as of last count, over 124 countries, I understand. 124 countries, unbelievable. But we'll emerge, I really believe we'll emerge stronger because we'll be doing things differently than this country's done them in the past for many, many decades. And we're deeply committed to ensuring that small businesses have the support they require. The Small Business Administration announced disaster loans which provide impacted businesses with up to $2 million, and we've asked Congress to increase the SBA lending authority. We're going to be going up to $50 billion, and actually much more than that for small businesses, so they'll be helped. In your cases, they're very big businesses, but it's a lot of employees, and so we appreciate it very much. We appreciate you being here, and maybe in front of the media you could say a couple of words about your companies and the number of people you employ. And I pretty much know every one of you in that respect. It's a lot of people, and they're great companies. Please.
Hi, I'm Chris Nassetta. I am CEO of Hilton, and we have 6,000 hotels around the world, about 4,500 hotels in the great United States of America. We employ globally about 450,000 people, about 260,000 people here in America. Mr. President, on behalf of everybody, I'm sure you'll hear this from us, we appreciate you having us here. We appreciate all that you're doing today to keep all of us safe and secure first, and working on trying to secure a good future for the economy, as you point out, that was quite strong, but obviously being impacted by this. Vice President Pence, to you and all others that are working on this day and night, we appreciate it. As the President pointed out, we're one of the biggest industries in the country. We're one of the biggest employers in the country. And our industry, as you will hear from others, has been impacted in a devastating way. I personally lived through many crises, starting with the S&L, the 9/11 crisis, the Great Recession. I've been doing this for 35 years. Never seen anything like it. And so, we're hoping to have a constructive dialogue about, how we protect the small businesses that make up the bulk of this industry. and how we protect the people on the front lines of this industry. That number, 5 million people that at this point, given what's going on in our industry, are in harm's way. So.
And tell me, so you're in many countries, and how are you doing in other countries? Some are in very, very bad shape.
I was looking at our numbers for last night. It is strikingly similar everywhere in the world. If you look at around the world, I would say, just a few days or maybe a week, we will probably be running 10 to 15% occupancy in the world.
And that's pretty much all over the world.
That's everywhere in the world. It's a little bit better here, but catching up. If you look at the major cities around the United States, they're running in the single digits, which means for the first time in 100 years, Hilton has been around 100 years, we've never closed a hotel that wasn't going to be demolished for rebuilding. The bulk of our hotels in the major cities are closing as we speak.
Well, we'll get it open soon, and we're doing a yeoman's effort. I think we're going to be very successful. You'll be back in business soon, but we have to keep your employees going.
We do.
The business is going.
That's our first priority.
And we will be able to do that, Chris. Thank you very much. But all over the world, it's a disaster.
All over the world, it's a disaster. There's not one part of the world that's not being severely impacted.
Yep. Thank you very much. Please.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Secretary Ross, thank you for taking the time to see us, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
We very much appreciate it. I'm the President and CEO for Best Western and also World Hotels. We have about 5,000 hotels around the world. Half the hotels are in the United States. We employ tens of thousands of employees in our company. As Chris has really alluded to, this is a very difficult time and very challenging times for us. Just today, I had a call with one of our franchisees. He was lamenting that although he owns about 10 different hotels and different brands, and some with us and some with other brands, he was lamenting having to lay off hundreds of people in his company. Some of them have been with him for 20, 30 years, and he was really concerned about their livelihood and the safety net. And the other thing that he mentioned was if the government can help with liquidity and access to capital, that would be of great assistance. And he specifically mentioned that his loans were swap loans, and therefore there are severe penalties to refinance. And so if there's any way to alleviate that burden, that would be most grateful.
Yeah, we're dealing with the banks too, and the banks have been very accommodating. They will be. I think they will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Arnie Sorensen, CEO of Marriott. Thanks for giving us your time this afternoon, and appreciate the leadership of all of you as we go through this crisis. I don't need to repeat much of what's been said. We think we have about 750,000 people that wear our name badge around the world every day. Right. Probably about 2/3 of those in the United States.
How many hotel rooms now?
1.4 million, just shy of 1.4 million hotel rooms. And as you know, the business is made up of hotels we run. Often hotels are owned by other investors, but we will operate them. And then also by franchise operators. And they are typically owner-operators. They might range from a Fairfield Inn in a suburban or rural market all the way up to a Ritz-Carlton or a St. Regis someplace. And you asked about the globe. In January, of course, this all starts in China. Business falls by 90%.
And this all started in China?
All started in China.
That's where you first saw the problem, and it's where you first got hit?
Absolutely. Third week in January, and within a week, business is down about 90%. And you've been living this just the way we have. About 3 weeks ago, we have that horrible weekend where it shows up in Korea and in Italy. They are sort of a clarion call, if you will, that it has left China and it is moving to the rest of the world. And while we didn't know exactly how it would show up in the United States, it was fairly clear that it was now a broader spread. And from that,
China doing better now?
China, there's starting to be some green shoots. So Macau, for example, we think we bottomed at about 2% occupancy. We think
2%?
2%.
In Macau?
Yeah. And we think we might be approaching 30 as of last night. Now, that's probably one of the stronger markets in China. And so they're trying to get things going again, but we're still in the rest of the world, including the United States. I get dailies, of course, of new reservations and cancellations. In every other market, the numbers are continuing to go down. So I don't think we've bottomed anywhere else yet. In the U.S., in the last couple of days anyway, when you look at decline in reservations and in cancellations, the total is negative. So we're losing business every day,
No, we're in
not
the
really
process.
getting anything new.
We haven't hit that top yet. We're in the process.
Yeah, I think that's right. And of course, we'll have some time with you today, but employees first, and I think liquidity
Right.
second is the two things that are on our list.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ellie Malone with Intercontinental Hotels Group, Chief Executive of the Americas. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We have nearly 6,000 hotels around the world, over 3,800 hotels in the United States, over 530,000 rooms. 80% of those are owned by small business people across 50 states, across every county, across every community. So we're experiencing the same impacts similar to what the industry, the HLA, and our colleagues here have been talking about. I want to turn attention to those small business owners in 50 states across the communities, because they're the bedrock of those communities. And as they're getting impacted, it's not just their employees that begin to see an impact and job losses, but it's entire ecosystem of their suppliers, their vendors. And so I think I'm very pleased that we can work together with you and the administration to find a solution to preserve that network of entrepreneurs across the country.
Yep, we will.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Vice President, Patrick Pacia, CEO of Choice Hotels International. We have 6,000 hotels in the U.S. That's 1 out of every 10 hotels flies our flag. As others have talked about, we're in secondary and tertiary markets. We may be the only hotel in a small town. Those owners have two key concerns. One, what do they do with their employees when they've got zero occupancy? And two, how do they pay their mortgage? So it is this question of employee retention and liquidity so they can get through this period. 90% of our hotels are SBA eligible, so we're very familiar with the SBA loan program and the disaster relief. There's some red tape there that we have some suggestions that we think the
Okay,
SBA
give us
could-
those suggestions.
You want them right now?
Yeah,
There,
go ahead.
I'll give them to you right now. The first is the disaster relief cap. It's only $2 million, and if you've taken out the full $5 million, you can't get access to the additional $2 million. So we need the cap raised.
To what?
We need it to at least raise to 10 million on a per individual basis. Secondly is the personal liquidity test, which just got put in place. That could be rolled back. And the final one is figuring out the affiliation. So an individual may own a partnership in multiple hotels.
Right.
So that again restricts the amount of capital available to them. So we'd really like the opportunity to speak to the SBA about lifting some of those requirements to really help inject
So
more
it's
liquidity.
individual properties instead of accumulated properties.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Hoplamazian, CEO of Hyatt Hotels. We have 950 hotels around the world, and there's 600 in the United States, over 70,000 employees. And I'm not going to repeat a lot of the things that were said. We've been tracking, we have a large base of group business in the United States, big meetings and conventions, and we've been tracking major cancellations. We now have tracked in the U.S. alone canceled events, and I'm not talking about major sports leagues that have shut down, or universities and those kinds of things, but actual convenings, conventions, big meetings.
You have some of the sports leagues, right?
So as customers.
You have quite a few, yeah. I would think so.
But when we look at just the other meetings that have been canceled, they involve attendees of over 1.5 million people. So when you think about the ecosystem impact, it's major convention markets where those attendees are not showing up. So they're not traveling on airplanes, but they're not staying in our hotels. They're also not going out to restaurants, and so the collective impact is quite significant. I think the key issue that I would leave you with is that the urgency is very high, because day by day, the occupancy rates have dropped precipitously. So now we are seeing occupancies below 10% in the single digits for the vast majority of our hotels, whereas a week ago they were 20, 30 points higher than that. It's happened very well.
When this ends, do you see a quick buildup?
I think that all depends on how confident people are to get back on planes and start traveling again. So I think that's really the key issue. We've got to also position ourselves to get people back into their jobs. Either retain them or rehire them. One of those two things are critical, because we all are proud of the people that we employ and we want to retain them. So whether we can retain them or have some assistance in getting them rehired early so that we can spool back up.
Hopefully you can retain them.
Hopefully
That's what we're shooting for. You want to retain them.
I think the issue with that, sorry to interrupt, Mark, Mr. President, is that when our owners are running 8-9%, as I said, we're shutting hotels. So all of those employees are being furloughed or laid off right now, day by day.
It's happening immediately.
You know, Jim Murren's here somewhere, 80,000 people this week. We're tens of thousands because our owners can't pay it. And so
So that's the key issue that I was really making is the timing. It's happening instantaneously.
one of the things we want to talk about is trying to create a fund for those people in order to stop that from happening.
What kind of a
Because
fund would that be?
I think that would have to, in lieu of sort of the unemployment insurance that we
In terms of dollars?
I think the fund for that probably our quarterly payroll for the industry is $45 billion in total. So that you can sort of scale it
I got
from
it.
there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got it.
Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, thank you for your time. The CEO of Wyndham Destinations, and we're in the vacation ownership and exchange business, the world's largest company in that space. We employ 23,000 associates and take care of over 5 million households on vacation every year. Largely in the industry, it's about an $80 billion impact to the overall economy, and we employ directly 250,000 and another 250,000 through other small businesses that work well with our industry. To your point about a quick recovery, we purely serve a leisure customer, which means just like after 9/11, just after the 08-09, our customers will be back really quick as soon as we're on the other side. And we really believe our industry will recover quickly and be an accelerant back to the economy once we get to the other side.
I think so, too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. It's Jim Murren,
Hi,
the
Jim.
Chairman and CEO of MGM Resorts. It's good to see you all again, Mr. Secretary.
When did you get your chair? What happened?
Well, we're in the spatial recognition world, but I just wanted to say, on behalf of MGM, we have made the decision around the country to close our resorts, and tomorrow night we will close all the resorts in Las Vegas. That's 70,000 people we are now putting on a furlough. I want to retain those employees. I want to bring them back as soon as possible. Las Vegas, as you know, will come back rapidly once you give us the green light, but it's very important that we keep these people on our payrolls as soon as possible. I also represent the 2 million jobs of the gaming industry in the United States. And as you know, many of those casinos are in cities that rely upon them for their tax revenue. So I appreciate your efforts, and I stand by to help you in any way I can.
Okay, we'll get it done, Jim.
Thank you.
We'll get it done.
I'm Richard Bates. I'm with Walt Disney Company, and today I'm here for the theme park and hotel business. So thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Mr. Secretary. We have about 220,000 employees. We think our company is great because of our employees, so employee retention is the single most important issue for me. Second would be liquidity. So I frankly support some kind of employer payroll tax holiday. I don't know if you're still...
Is that what you like the best of the various scenarios?
I like them all, but that one I like a lot.
Most direct. Not as quick, but most direct.
I think so.
Thank you.
Especially, Mr. President, because a lot of us have, Disney voluntarily closed their parks, so they have people out of work today. And as MGM, we have voluntarily closed these resorts. And if we can get some relief on that, we will absolutely want to keep these people employed.
Let me ask you, the parks outside of the United States
They're closed.
Closed? You closed all of your parks, everything closed. That's a real worldwide problem, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
And I'm sorry, one last point, Mr. President, on Macau, because Arnie Swordsman was talking about. Of course, we own 2 resorts there. The government shut those casinos down, as you know, for 2 weeks. We're starting to slowly see a recovery there, but it is absolutely single-digit occupancy right now. So we're not seeing any better results there currently.
You guys okay? Yes, please.
Chip Rogers, President and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. I'll be quick. Industry-wide, last year, occupancy was 67%. That helped support 8.3 million jobs. Right now, as these gentlemen have indicated, we're probably under 20% nationwide and headed south. If by the end of the year we get up to 35% and nothing else happens, that'll be about 4 million jobs lost. That's if we can get back up to 35%.
But they'll come back as we age a little bit, right?
Yes, quicker the better.
Yeah, I think so. May come back fast. Thank you very much, actually. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you, please.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Send checks to everybody. How much money are you talking That's all being figured now, and we're also helping industries like Boeing. We have to help Boeing. We have to help the airline industry. It wasn't their fault. This wasn't their fault. And we will do that. We'll be doing that. So we're adding it up. It'll be fine. It'll come back very quickly once we're finished with our war with the virus. Okay?
Mr. President, since I got this payroll tax holiday, nothing as big as 12.4% has ever been tried. They did 2% in 2010.
They've done it in smaller amounts, yeah.
They've done it in smaller
But we have a lot of
They
other...
can never afford something that big.
Right. Well, they can definitely afford it. The question is, do we want to go through payroll and do what we want to do? There are 4 other ways of doing it. And that's what we're determining along with the Senate right now. Senate and House. We're all working on this together, John. Thank you all very much.
Press, we're done, let's go.
Tens of thousands of employees of all of these companies who've been furloughed. They live paycheck to paycheck in many cases. What is your message to them, Mr. President?
Well, the message is that this was something that happened. It's nobody's fault. It happened, and we're going to take care of it. We'll be bigger, stronger, better than ever before, and it won't take that long. Thank you very much.
All right, press.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Progress being made. And I appreciate you all joining us. Last night, the FDA announced groundbreaking new policies to further increase testing, very substantially so. All states can now authorize tests developed and used within their borders in addition to the FDA. So the states are very much involved. They have been involved from the beginning, but we're stepping it up as much as we can, and the testing procedures are going well. And within a short period of time, all of the private labs will kick in. This has never been done before, and it's going to be something I think it's going to be incredible if it's done properly. And these are great companies. These are among the greatest companies in the world, actually. So the state's going to be dealing through themselves and with local government, local physicians, local everybody. They're also dealing with us, but we have a tremendous testing capacity. Today, we're also announcing a dramatic expansion of our Medicare telehealth services. Medicare patients can now visit any doctor by phone or video conference at no additional cost, including with commonly used services like FaceTime and Skype. A historic breakthrough. This has not been done before either. In addition, states have the authority to cover telehealth services for their medical patients. And by doing this, the patient is not seeing the doctor per se, but they're seeing the doctor, so there's no getting close. During this time, we will not enforce applicable HIPAA penalties so that doctors can greatly expand care for their patients using telehealth, so the penalties won't be enforced. We encourage everyone to maximize use of telehealth to limit exposure to the virus. It's been a very successful method of communication, but never used on a scale like we're going to use at telehealth. And you'll be able to also better maintain hospital capacity by doing this. Earlier this morning, I spoke with executives from America's fast food industry, Wendy's, McDonald's, all of the big ones, Burger King, and they were great. We're talking about the pickups in light of yesterday's guidance you heard. To avoid eating or drinking at bars, restaurants, or public food courts, we discussed the important role that the drive-through pickup and delivery service can play in the weeks ahead. So that's happening, and they have been fantastic. They have been absolutely fantastic, and they've been doing it already, but they're keeping it open, and smaller staffs, very capable people and very capable companies, and they're doing it, pickups. Our guidance yesterday urges Americans to take action for 15 days to help stem the outbreak. So it's a 15-day period. I guess now would say it's a 14-day period. It's 15 days from yesterday, and we're asking everyone to work at home if possible, postpone unnecessary travel, and limit social gatherings to no more than 10 people. By making shared sacrifices and temporary changes, we can protect the health of our people, and we can protect our economy, because I think our economy will come back very rapidly. So it's 15 days from yesterday. We'll see what happens after that. If we do this right, our country and the world, frankly, but our country can be rolling again pretty quickly, pretty quickly. We have to fight that invisible enemy that, I guess, unknown, but we're getting to know it a lot better. Today, the Senate has taken up coronavirus legislation that includes free testing for those who need it, as well as paid sick leave and family medical leave for workers affected by the virus. We're also committed to getting small businesses the support that they need. In fact, one of the things we talked about with the fast food operations, we spoke to the chairman and CEOs of all of the companies, but one of the things we discussed is exactly that, getting small businesses support and flexibility that they need for themselves and for their workers, and that's being worked on right now. At my direction, Secretary Minuchin is meeting today with senators on additional stimulus packages. I can tell you he was meeting with them late until the night last night, and for a big part of the day yesterday, and tremendous things are happening. There's great spirit, tremendous spirit, and I can say that for Republicans and Democrats. I can say that with respect to Governor Cuomo, we had a great talk this morning. We're both doing a really good job, and we're coordinating it. And we agree, different states need different things, and we agree on that 100%. But we had a very good talk, and I think we're right down the same track, and it's going to be very successful. New York has a pretty big problem, I guess, would be the #1 hot spot. It's no fault of anybody's. It's just the way it is. But we're working very closely together. We're also getting FEMA very much involved. They've been involved, but now we're getting them to a different level. And we'll have everything ready. We're dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers should that be necessary. We have them working in some cases, on standby in other cases. But my conversation with Andrew Cuomo was a very, very productive one and a very good one. I appreciate that. We're giving relief to affected industries and small businesses, and we're ensuring that we emerge from this challenge with the prosperous and growing economy, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to pop. One day we'll be standing possibly up here, we'll say, well, we won. And we're going to say that. Sure as you're sitting there, we're going to say that. And we're going to win. And I think we're going to win faster than people think, I hope. Later today, I'll meet with the leaders from the tourism industry, as well as industrial supply retailers and wholesalers, to discuss their critical roles. As you know, I met with the department store people, all of the retailers, the big ones, including Walmart and others. And it was a great meeting. They're stocking up their stores like they've never stocked them before. We're trying to get people to actually buy less, if that's possible, buy less. Don't take everything, just buy what you need for a while. They're going to stay open all hours of the day, and they've been fantastic. We're taking aggressive action now as one nation and one family so that America can rebound stronger, frankly, stronger than ever before. And we recognize that while many American workers can work from home, many others cannot. Many of our healthcare providers, first responders, and men and women in the food service and manufacturing are showing that they're showing up and standing up to provide us with the goods and services we need. So we want people to stay home where they can, but in many cases, when you talk about food service and manufacturing, certain items in particular, they're going in and they're practicing all of the safety rules and regulations that we talk about. So with that, I'd like to just introduce our Trade Vice President, Mike Pence. He'll say a few words, and then I'll make some other introductions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. It should be very clear to the American people that President Trump has initiated not only a whole-of-government approach, but a whole-of-America approach. And the President's interaction even today and through the course of this day with leaders in industry around the country reflects that we're not only bringing the full weight of the federal government to bear, but the full weight of the American economy. And I know I speak on behalf of the President when I say how inspired we are at the way the American people have stepped up and the way that American businesses, large and small, have stepped up. It's truly been inspiring. Our task force met this morning. We continue to focus on President Trump's priorities of testing, prevention, and supplies. And in that category, I'm pleased to report that while testing is available in all 50 states, as the President just indicated, Through the swift action of the FDA at the encouragement of governors around the country, now state health authorities can authorize labs in their state and expand existing testing capabilities. But also in connection with the FDA's action, which you'll hear more about in a moment, we now have continued to expand the public and private partnership that the President forged with vast commercial laboratories around the country, increasing access to the high-volume, high-throughput coronavirus testing that is greatly expanding access even as we speak. Also, our task force received a report this morning on the progress that the U.S. Public Health Service and FEMA are making, working closely with state governments and also partners in the private sector like CVS, Target, Walgreens, and Walmart to expand remote testing sites around the country, and we'll have a full report later this week as those come online. It's important the American people understand that testing is happening all over the country. But all of our health experts wanted me to tell the American people, you don't need the results of testing to know what you should do. And President Trump's 15-day coronavirus guidelines are advice for every American in every community. They're the result of the best guidance of CDC and our health experts. And as the President said, we continue to urge every American over the next 15 days to put into practice the principles in the President's coronavirus guidelines. By every American practicing these principles, we believe that we can slow the spread of the coronavirus. In fact, our experts have told our task force that if every American acts on the President's coronavirus guidelines, we could see a substantial reduction in the spread of the coronavirus. But as the President said, it will take all of us to do it. And so if you feel sick, stay home. If someone in your house tests positive, keep the entire household home. Especially if you're a person with an underlying health condition, we urge you to stay home and practice social distancing from people. No social gatherings of more than 10 people. Use drive-through, as the President discussed with leaders in the industry today, and every American, especially practicing common sense and good hygiene. For the American people as a whole, the risk of serious illness remains low, but we're asking every American to partner with us in this effort to slow the spread of the virus and especially to be mindful of seniors or others with serious underlying health conditions for whom the threat of the coronavirus can be very significant and very real. As I said, the President has continued to push our task force to bring a whole of government, a whole of America approach, and we continue to be inspired the way our nation's governors and nation's businesses are responding. We spoke just yesterday with the leaders of every broadcast network in America that will soon be unveiling a public service campaign using CDC guidelines. And specifically, as we work on the issue of supplies, there were meetings yesterday with Department of Defense officials about excess supplies. The President and I will be meeting today to speak about the supply chain for hospitals. We would make one specific request, and that is we would urge construction companies to donate their inventory of N95 masks to your local hospital and forego additional orders of those industrial masks. Because of what the President asked to be included in legislation moving through the Congress today, those industrial masks that they use on construction sites are perfectly acceptable for healthcare workers to be protected from a respiratory disease. But we're asking construction companies that our President knows very well from his background, we're asking them to donate their N95 masks to their local hospitals and also forego making additional orders. At the President's direction, we will continue to do whatever it takes. We'll continue to marshal the best of the American people, the best of all the people behind me, the people behind them, our state and local officials, and we will get through this, and we will get through this together. Thank you, Mr. President.
I want to thank Chad Wolf and Homeland Security. The job they did at the airports was really incredible. They screened thousands and thousands of people. O'Hare got backed up a little bit, but they got them out. But everybody was screened and screened very carefully. They didn't want to rush it. I think it was 13 airports, and it was an incredible thing. Then they had a big surge also from the UK and Ireland, and that went very smoothly. But they did a fantastic job. They worked long hours, and they did a fantastic job. I'd like to introduce Steve Minuchin, and then I'm going to ask Steve to leave because he's going to the Hill. He's been working very hard with the Senate and with the House on a very, very big, bold package. It's going to be big and it's going to be bold, and the level, again, of enthusiasm to get something done, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. So, Steve Minuchin, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to announce some very significant actions that the President has approved today. The first I would say is earlier today, I sent a letter to Fed Chairman Powell approving his request to use 13.3. And what that will do is the Fed will be setting up a special purpose vehicle, which the Treasury will invest $10 billion in from one of our funds. That will enable the Fed to guarantee the purchase of A1, P1 commercial paper going forward. That is a $1 trillion market and is critical to American workers, it's critical to American business, and it's critical to American savers who have a lot of that money in money market funds. So we heard loud and clear there were liquidity issues. This is very significant and will create, I don't think we'll need to use it all, but we have the ability to have the Fed purchase up to $1 trillion of commercial paper as needed. That has already created significant stability in the market today. The second thing I would say is, we've previously talked about deferring IRS payments. The President earlier this morning authorized me to announce this program. I have previously announced we would defer $200 billion. The President suggested we increase that to $300 billion, which we will be doing. Now, let me just be clear on the specifics. We encourage those Americans who can file their taxes to continue to file their taxes on April 15th, because for many Americans, you will get tax refunds, and we don't want you to lose out on those tax refunds. We want you to make sure you get them. Many people do this electronically, which is easy for them and easy for the IRS. If you owe a payment to the IRS, you can defer up to $1 million as an individual. And the reason why we're doing $1 million is that covers lots of pass-throughs and small businesses, and $10 million to corporations, interest-free and penalty-free for 90 days. All you have to do is file your taxes. You'll automatically not get charged interest and penalties. Now, of course, any American has the right to extend their taxes. We're not taking that right, but the President has asked us to go up to $300 billion. That's also an enormous amount of liquidity in the system. The third thing is the President and I worked on a very significant economic stimulus plan. Thank you for being available last night and throughout this morning, and I will be presenting that to the Republicans in the Senate this morning, and also discussing that with the House. We look forward to having bipartisan support. We're now working with the Senate to pass this legislation very quickly, and these will be payments to small businesses. We've talked about loan guarantees to critical industries such as airlines and hotels, and we've also talked about a stimulus package to the American worker. You can think of this as something like business interruption payments for the American workers. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for the Secretary of the Treasury?
When you say a stimulus package for American workers, do you mean direct payments to Americans, or are you talking about a payroll tax holiday?
Although the President likes the idea of the payroll tax holiday, I will tell you what we've heard from many people, and the President has said we can consider this. The payroll tax holiday would get people money over the next 6 to 8 months. We're looking at sending checks to Americans immediately. And what we've heard from hardworking Americans, many companies have now shut down, whether it's bars or restaurants. Americans need cash now, and the President wants to get cash now. And I mean now, in the next 2 weeks.
How much?
I will be previewing that with the Republicans. There's some numbers out there. They may be a little bit bigger than what's in the press.
Go ahead, please. Please, wait, please.
What help are you going to give to airlines specifically?
I've had discussions with all the airline CEOs this week. The airline CEOs have had conversations with the Senate and the House. As the President said, I was up with a subset of the Republican senators last night. I've discussed that with them. I think, as you know, this is worse than 9/11. For the airline industry, this is, they are almost ground to a halt. The president wants to make sure that although we don't want people to travel unless it's critical, we want to maintain for critical travel the right to have domestic travel.
$60 billion, is that enough?
I'm not going to comment on the specifics. I will tell you we're very focused. There's a lot of workers. This is strategically important to us, and we'll be working with Congress on this.
The airline industry will be in good shape. Yeah, go ahead, please.
There's been talk about $1,000 checks to every American, increasing support among Republicans and some Democrats for that. Would you support that going to everyone, or would you support some sort of income restriction on who gets a check?
Well, I think it's clear we don't need to send people who make $1 million a year checks, okay? But that's one of the ideas we like. We're going to preview that today, and then we'll be talking about details afterwards.
Well, I think we're going to do something that gets money to them as quickly as possible. That may not be an accurate way of doing it, because obviously some people shouldn't be getting checks for $1,000. And we'll have a pretty good idea by the end of the day what we're going to be doing.
Mr. Secretary,
Yeah, John, please.
Can you tell, how would the mechanics of this work? I mean, we've been talking about a payroll tax holiday, some $500 billion worth was floated to me today. But so how would this idea of sending people a check work? Would that be sort of advance on what they would pay in payroll tax? How would it work?
Again, we want to make sure Americans get money in their pockets quickly. We want to make sure small business owners have access to funds. We want to make sure that hotels, airlines, we have an entire package. We'll be laying out those details later today.
Yeah, I have to say this. There are 4 different ways you can do it. That's okay. 4, you can hear me well enough, I imagine.
Sorry.
Okay. People at home, you're right. Those are very important people. Come to think of it, especially your people. Look, we have 4 or 5 ways we can do it, 4 ways in particular. I think there's a 5th possibility, but there are some very good ways of getting the money out and getting it out quickly. Payroll tax is one way, but it does come over a period of months, many months, and we want to do something much faster than that. So I think we have ways of getting money out pretty quickly and very accurately. Okay?
Can you talk about the timeline, please? How quickly do you think you can get this done?
The president has instructed me we have to do this now. So this is now.
By the end of the week?
We are going to work with the Senate, who's in session right now, actively. We will continue to have conversations with the House. I've already spoken to Speaker Pelosi once today. This is stuff that needs to be done now. The president has instructed me that this is no fault to American workers. For medical reasons, we are shutting down parts of this economy, and we're going to use all the tools we have, as I've said, and what tools we don't have, we're going back to Congress. I got to go back to
$850 billion to those who might be concerned that's too expensive.
We don't want to talk about it, but it's a substantial number. We're going big. The expression, we could do it 2 ways. We could keep going back every day or every week. We're going big, and that's where Mitch McConnell, that's the way he wants to go. That's the way I want to go. I think we want to get it done and have a big infusion as opposed to going through little meetings every couple of days. We don't want to do it that way. We want to go big, go solid. The country is very strong. We've never been so strong, and that's what we're going to be doing. We don't want, with this invisible enemy, we don't want airlines going out of business. We don't want people losing their jobs or not having money to live when they were doing very well just 4 weeks ago. So we're going big, and that's the way it'll be, and that's the way everybody seems to like it on the Hill. Any other questions for Steve?
Sorry, in addition to airlines and hotels, you had a call with restaurants today. Was any type of emergency assistance discussed on that call? A lot of restaurants.
Are you ready, ladies? The Global Lady to Lady Conference is back. And when ladies gather together, changes happen. The Global Lady to Lady Conference is live in London at Fairfield Concert Hall, Croydon, Saturday the 21st of March. That's Fairfield Concert Hall, Park Lane, Croydon, CR9. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. for a 10 a.m. start. Register free at ladytoladyglobal.org or call 020 3983 9394.
Jerusalem, Jerusalem, land of glory, Jerusalem, holy land, and a visit to Jerusalem.
These are the things that have been written, and we are bearing witness to them as being true. This is an opportunity for you to visit Israel, Mount Nebo in Jordan, the ground where God spoke to Moses, showing him the promised land and the holy land of Jerusalem. 10 days visit to see for yourself the places which you have read in the Bible, like Elah Valley, where David defeated Goliath, Mount Nebo, Sea of Galilee, Canaan, where Jesus turned water to wine, River Jordan, where John the Baptist baptized Jesus Christ, Joseph and Maria House in Nazareth, Jericho, the Dead Sea, the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed, Lazarus' tomb, King David tomb in Jerusalem, the house where Jesus and his disciples had their Last Supper, the Pentecost Upper Room, and so on. Our office is at Albert Basins, South Dockland, London, E16 7QY. For more info, please visit www.holytrinitypilgrimage.co.uk or please call Captain Mother Hassan on 078 721 37953 or Pastor Elijah Kamui on 079 846 34898 or email us info@holytrinitypilgrimage.co.uk. A pilgrim is not a tourist. The tourist sees sights and returns home the same person, but the pilgrim gains insights and returns home changed and spiritually fulfilled.
Jerusalem. Heritage TV. La, 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 la. Heritage TV.
Everybody in London, have you heard that Heritage Television has come up with something new? All your functions and celebrations can now be multi-camera live stream. That was only reserved for the rich and famous. Having a function in London can be viewed clean and clear immediately from any part of the world. Trust Heritage TV to give you a better reach. Heritage Television also does photography that will make you the envy of all your friends and family. Heritage Television is the best. All your functions like birthdays, funerals, weddings, church anniversaries or harvest. Heritage Television is the master. We are in the heart of London with an ultra-modern equipped studio. You can call us on 020-800-46100 or email us info@heritagetv.co.uk or mobile 0734 1234 560. Heritage Television will do you proud.